At the beginning of the film, we see a gangster who once ruled the city and was feared by everyone. However, his reign was coming to an end as another gang had emerged, spreading terror at a rapid pace. Hearing this, the boss became so enraged that he shoved a knife into the mouth of the person delivering the news and slit his face from one side. Outside the gangster's house, we are introduced to Sakata. He climbs up to the terrace using a pipe and takes down the gangster's henchmen one by one in a brutal fight. Then he grabs one of the bodyguards and throws him onto the guards below, knocking them all out. By now, the gangster had learned about the attack. He rushed to escape, jumping into his car, only to find that the driver had already been killed. Panicking, he ran to his room, pulled out a gun from a drawer, but before he could act, Sakata had already entered the house. The gangster's right-hand man confronted Sakata in a fierce fight. He used everything in his reach to stop Sakata and even managed to slow him down. Finally, he picked up a sharp object and knocked Sakata down, ready to stab him. But before he could, Sakata grabbed a knife nearby and sliced off his hand. Now Sakata turned his attention to the gangster, who stood trembling. As soon as the gangster saw him, he opened fire. In his panic, he didn't realize that he was actually shooting his own men, whom Sakata had used as a shield. Sakata then advanced towards him, shot him dead, and wiped out the entire gang. Just as Sakata was about to leave, another gang member tried to ambush him from behind. But before he could strike, someone else shot him from behind. It was revealed that the person who had killed him was the head of a security agency. This agency had been hiring Sakata to eliminate gangs like these. However, Sakata had now decided to retire. He wanted to spend the rest of his time peacefully with his family. Fujita, the security agency head, tried to convince him to continue working, but Sakata didn't listen. He returned home, where he had a small but happy family, his wife and daughter. That evening, after meeting them, he went to take a shower. Suddenly, he heard strange noises from outside. When he rushed out, he saw that an entire gang had taken his wife and daughter hostage. The gang members were wearing masks, so Sakata couldn't recognize them. Their leader mocked him, saying, "You did us a favor by killing the previous gang. Now we will be the only rulers of this city, but there's just one problem. You. The man who wiped out that gang could wipe out ours too. So, I decided to finish you first." At the boss's command, one of the men grabbed Sakata's daughter. Seeing this, Sakata was filled with rage and charged at them. But before he could reach, another gangster shot him in the leg. Sakata, now wounded, saw his wife crying and pleading for mercy. This annoyed the gangsters, and one of them shot her dead in cold blood. Before they could kill Sakata's daughter, he told her to run, but they shot her too. Sakata was completely shattered. After this, they shot him as well and left the scene, making it look like a family murder-suicide. When the police arrived, they believed that a deranged man had killed his family before taking his own life. The news spread across TV channels. Years passed. 12 years later, the story cuts to the city's mayor, Tsunohara. In a press conference, he boasted about how he transformed the crime-ridden city into a progressive one. But a journalist interrupted him, questioning, "A lot of people have disappeared in the last 10 years, including a man who was building a resort. His land was taken, and now your mall stands there. What do you have to say about that?" Tsunohara dismissed the accusations, calling them baseless rumors. Even though the journalist had proof, Tsunohara skillfully manipulated the conversation to shut him down. Meanwhile, it was revealed that Sakata was still alive, but in a terrible condition. He was paralyzed, unable to move or speak. He was being taken care of by the same man who had once worked for him. This man helped him walk, fed him, and looked after him daily. One day, while taking Sakata for a walk, an assassin attacked them, stabbing Sakata multiple times. The caretaker panicked. It turned out that the attacker was a former gang member whose hand Sakata had once cut off. He had come back for revenge. However, Sakata was in no condition to fight back. On the other side of the city, the journalist who had questioned Tsunohara was still investigating his crimes. He was gathering information from an informant, one of the men whose mouth had been cut at the beginning of the movie. This informant knew about every crime in the city. However, as he was revealing the details, masked men attacked them. They shot the informant in the mouth, killing him instantly. The scene then shifts to a hospital. A police officer entered Sakata's room. The officer, disguised in a mask, was a member of Kimangami gang, the same gang that had killed Sakata's family. He injected poison into Sakata's IV drip. Seeing this, Sakata was filled with rage. The fire for revenge ignited in his paralyzed body, giving him strength. He pulled out his IV, fell off the bed, and managed to push the officer down. However, Sakata was still weak, and the officer knocked him unconscious. Just then, another officer arrived. Upon seeing his masked senior, he realized something was wrong. Before he could expose the truth, the masked officer suffocated him with a pillow and shot him. Since the doctor had witnessed everything, the gang killed him too. But in their overconfidence, they forgot about Sakata. He had regained consciousness. He grabbed the masked officer from behind and strangled him with a bedsheet, killing him. In his struggle, the officer accidentally kicked his partner, who fell out of the window and died. At this moment, Fujita arrived to check on Sakata, but he was shocked to see Sakata walking towards him, alive. As Sakata walked out, he picked up some food and was flooded with memories of his family. The Kimangami gang's leader soon received the news that Sakata was alive. He immediately ordered Fujita to bring his dead body, a corpse, was later delivered to their warehouse where women were packing drugs. However, it was a dinner decoy. Sakata was actually alive and had already infiltrated the warehouse. Through CCTV footage, the guards saw Sakata fighting his way inside. The watchman at the gate fired at his car, killing his caretaker. Even though injured, the caretaker managed to kill the shooter before collapsing. Inside the factory, Sakata fought his way through countless men, using everything as a weapon. Some were thrown off ledges, others were smashed against walls. As he progressed, he faced more and more enemies, attacking in different ways, but Sakata killed them all. At one point, he was thrown into a machine crusher, but he dodged at the last second and slit an enemy's throat with a thrown knife. Another man shot at him from a mwash and on a conveyor belt. Sakata jumped inside the machine, grabbed a gun, and killed him and several others. But the fight was still not over. The only thing driving him now was revenge. He finally reached the leader of Kimangami, who had taken drugs to prepare for the fight. However, before Sakata could reach him, the leader triggered a bomb, setting the entire building on fire. Thinking he had won, the leader celebrated, until suddenly, Sakata emerged from the flames, wrapped in a blanket, completely unharmed. Seeing this, the leader's henchmen trembled with fear. Even Fujita confessed, "I was the one who gave your family's location to the gang. I can't live with this guilt. Kill me." Without hesitation, Sakata shot him dead, and then he turned his attention to the remaining gang members. He took him and wanted to ask him about his leader. He used his mobile to call the leader. The biggest truth revealed here is that their leader was none other than Tsunohara, the mayor of the city. Tsunohara tells Kanta, "I invest all my earnings from legal businesses into the city's progress. I don't think eliminating my gang will be beneficial for you." After ending the call, Kanta shoots and kills the gang member in front of him. The next morning, the police were shown reporting all the attacks that happened the previous night. It was announced that Kanta was behind all the attacks, and he himself had died in a bomb explosion. On the other side, Kanta's daughter, who was still alive, was watching the news. One of the main members of the Kimangami gang had raised her. This man received information that Kanta was not actually dead, but hiding and could strike at any moment. Meanwhile, Kanta was seen with an old police officer whose life he had once saved. In return, the officer would always provide him with information. The officer gave Kanta the good news that his daughter, Rio, had survived because the Kimangami gang leader had not shot her but had only aimed at her side. The officer speculated that the gang had kept Rio in their security agency. Hearing this, Kanta took the officer's gun and immediately set off for the security agency. He fought his way inside, hoping to find Rio, but she was not there. Rio was actually hiding out of fear. She had seen the reports labeling Kanta as a bad man and now believed he was just a ruthless killer. She had forgotten everything about him. Before Kanta could find her, the man who raised Rio attacked him. Kanta fought back, and Rio ran away in fear. A fierce fight broke out between Kanta and the gang member. The gangster tried to shoot Kanta, but Kanta redirected the gun. The man then grabbed a nearby object and struck Kanta on the head, managing to save himself. He then started insulting Kanta. However, as soon as the man spoke, Kanta recognized his voice. It was the same man who had killed his wife. Just as Kanta was about to take revenge, Rio, unaware of the truth, shot an arrow at Kanta from behind. Kanta fell out of the window, but when they looked down, he was gone. The police officer who helped him had already taken him to a safe place. At the safe house, Kanta pulled out the arrow and bandaged his wound. Suddenly, he received a call from Tsunohara, who had tracked him through CCTV. Tsunohara demanded that Kanta be given the phone. He told Kanta, "If you want to see your daughter again, come to the resort." Despite his injuries, Kanta set off. Before going to the resort, he visited his hideout, gathered his fast car and weapons, and then headed to the location. At the resort, Rio was locked in a room. To create a distraction, Kanta's allies launched an attack, allowing him to enter unnoticed. He fought off security guards as he moved inside, climbing the stairs towards his daughter. He mercilessly shot down everyone in his path. But just before reaching the final step, a man with a sword wounded Kanta. Ignoring the pain, Kanta killed him and finally made it to the upper floor. There he was confronted by a masked fighter whose skills matched Kanta's. The fight was intense and Kanta struggled, but ultimately he defeated the masked man. However, the battle was not over yet. More guards came at him, and after eliminating them, Kanta reached the top floor where Rio was being held. When Rio saw him, she was shocked. She did not recognize him. Kanta was overwhelmed with emotion seeing his daughter again. But before he could react, a masked figure struck him from behind, knocking him unconscious. This was when Tsunohara made his grand entrance. He stood over the fallen Kanta and began telling him the story of the demon of the city, which was none other than himself. He then placed his sword on Rio's throat, preparing to kill her while Kanta watched helplessly. At that moment, memories flooded back into Rio's mind. She recalled how, as a child, her father had begged these same men to spare their lives, only for them to kill her mother anyway. She finally recognized her father. Just then, the police officer who had been helping Kanta arrived, killing several guards. Kanta urged him to take Rio and escape. Meanwhile, Kanta faced off against the last masked enemy. The fight was brutal, and Kanta was on the verge of losing several times. But he refused to give up. He wanted to live with his daughter. When Kanta finally defeated the masked man and removed his mask, he was shocked. It was Tsunohara's twin brother. A flashback revealed that Tsunohara's brother had always loved him deeply and was willing to do anything for him, even kill. Tsunohara had taken advantage of his loyalty, enjoying a luxurious life while his brother lived like a servant. Now that Tsunohara's brother was dead, Tsunohara himself had to fight. Both had been trained together, making them equals in combat. Tsunohara put on his mask and faced off against Kanta. Rio returned to help her father. A fierce sword battle unfolded. Though Kanta was skilled, his injuries weakened him. Tsunohara gained the upper hand and managed to cut off Kanta's arm. Despite this, Kanta refused to give up. Summoning all his strength, he launched one final attack, fatally wounding Tsunohara. Tsunohara's mask fell off, and his head was severely injured. He died on the spot. Rio had witnessed everything. As she rushed toward her father, the man who raised her arrived. She wanted nothing to do with him, but he claimed, "I am your real father. I raised you." Before he could get any closer, Kana slashed him with his sword, killing him. Kana then embraced Rio. With his last breath, he expressed his love for her and died in her arms. Shortly after, a fire broke out in the building. Police and firefighters arrived, carrying out bodies. Among them, one person was still alive. It was none other than Tsunohara's twin brother. Using his injuries to his advantage, he assumed Tsunohara's identity and won the election, becoming the city's new mayor. After his victory speech, he put on Tsunohara's leader mask, fully embracing his brother's position of power. At that moment, Rio arrived. Seeking revenge for her family, she used the very archery skills she had been taught to shoot multiple arrows into him, killing him. Afterward, she drove away, carrying a photo of her family, showing that despite everything, she still deeply loved them. And with that, the story ended.